think, act, and prosper. You are now tuned into the Money Level Show.
Yeah, especially on the global scale. And I've done like multiple videos on the food shortages. And I told the audience, you came out on my channel, was like, hey, buy food. This was, months ago. And so what was developing then that kind of put that on your radar? And then how has it been exacerbated since the whole Russia-Ukraine situation? Because it seems like it's way worse than it was before.
Yeah, I sniffed it out pretty much from knowing how, studying economic collapses and looking at that book I reference all the time, The Collapse of Complex Societies. I went through several of them. And then my friend David Dubine, who looks at the solar minimum and the solar cycles, which have a great deal to do with real weather changes above and beyond what the man-made stuff is. And so factored all those things in, I saw it coming quite early. And I really, you're right. I mean, I warned people when it was easy to get, freeze-dried food, and it was pretty abundant. Not that it isn't now, but I think there's not as much available. It's certainly higher price than it was. And so I just saw it coming. Didn't know about the illness at the time. Didn't know about supply chain breakdown at the time, but I did think about it deeply and realized it could be not so much I didn't think about the illness, but I thought about supply chains and how complicated they are and what disruptions could happen. And then you get this currency war, and then we want to go to gold or we don't. Settlement, I won't accept it unless it's in rubles and everything we talked about so far, Daryl. And it all plays together to be one big cluster, where it's harder and harder. The deeper you go down, the harder it is to get back up. So the best metaphor I can give is, we've got to hit bottom, and we're not at the bottom yet. And the bottom may be pretty scary as far as, what remains, meaning how much food is available on a per capita basis, how many jobs are real jobs, the amount of people that are on universal basic income. A lot of things are changing rapidly, and people don't like change.
No.
They think they do, but no, they want the status quo. They want to be comfortable. They've adapted to the conditions that they see right now, and when they change drastically, rapidly, it's upsetting, as it should be. But people do adapt actually fairly quickly. So I still have a optimism that once we get to the bottom, that we will have a lot more soul, if we could call it that, to the populace at large, where, our word means a lot, our integrity means a lot, our ability to, pitch in and help our neighbor kind of thing helps. I think we're just going to transition from a very materialistic Western hemisphere to a much more organic and what I call it brotherly love, but it isn't going to be that clear a path. There'll be a lot of ugliness as we go down the rabbit hole until we get to the point where we settle out, say, okay, this is all we've got left. Let's accept it. Let's not look at what we don't have. Let's look at what we do have. We've got commitment, energy, people we can trust, and let's move upward from here. And it will happen. And with the technologies that are out there, it could happen rather rapidly. So, there's several scenarios. Let's give you a couple. It could be a real quick, deep, hurtful, painful, scary as all get out kind of a drop. And it could be quick. And then things get to where I said, and we start to build back up. And it could come up rather rapidly because the technology still available and it's open to, let's say, humanity at large. But that's the optimistic one. I don't see it that way yet, but I'm open to the idea of it.
Yeah, it's that just kind of reminded me of that quote, hard times create strong men. And strong men create good times create weak men create hard times. And just thinking about that, it may take us to get to that point to like for us to even have even stronger leaders, that will step up and kind of just help us, join together, band together or whatnot. It's almost like that first turning piece of the book, The Fourth Turning,
Right.
where it's individualism's weakened, and people work together to build strong institutions and such. And that's kind of what I'm hearing when you say that. So another thing with the food shortages is the fertilizer farming issue. I was keeping my hand on my finger on the pulse of the Canadian Railway, that whole thing that was developing, and I'm glad it got resolved quick. But it's still looking like the fertilizer issue is going to be even hurt the farming, and next year we may see even more shortages coming up. What have you been seeing in the farming fertilizer kind of aspect?
Well, I'll just add on to you. You're right, and it is degrading. I mean, a lot of the fertilizer are what's called petrochemicals, which means oil, and oil is costing more, so fertilizer costs more. We've gotten away from being, let's say, more in tune with nature. We've outthought it or outdone it with all these chemicals and the idea that we can, conquer nature or whatever. I mean, nothing's really more important than the microbiomes in the soil. I mean, if you really want to get what's really valuable, it's dirt. It's healthy dirt that's got all kinds of organics in it that you can grow healthy food in. And there's ways to do it without petrochemicals. But the commercialization of the farming industry on a global basis has taken most of that away. But that doesn't mean, you can't grow some tomatoes and I can't grow some lettuce, and we get back, to basics. And you don't need necessarily petrochemicals to do that. You can use chicken poop, or you can make your own compost with leaves and grass and all this stuff. And I think we're going to get there. I mean, I don't think everyone's going to have their own victory garden in their backyard, but I think a lot of people that never thought about growing vegetables today will be growing them next year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually, when the pandemic first started, I started going out just buying seeds. I don't know why. I was like, I'm buying seeds. And then I went and bought some recently. We recently got about, I think, 7 chickens. And my wife's been starting to, garden and plant some vegetables and stuff like that. So, I mean, I just encourage people to, be able to do that, to stockpile on some things some non-perishables, and things of that nature. I mean, rice, dry beans, all that type of stuff, canned goods. I mean, I was watching the guy, I forgot his name. I believe he's one of your partners at the Morgan Report. And he talked about the canned like tuna and stuff at Costco, like has like a 2025, 2026 expiration date. So I've been buying out those too. I've been buying, I've been buying those up.